Hi, this is Priya Ray. Welcome to DIY Able's Cripstory, where you can learn about disabled people and their history throughout time. Today in Cripstory, we are going to learn about the independent living movement and the Center for Independent Living. The independent living movement is a philosophy that disabled people are entitled to the same civil rights, options, and control over choices in their own lives as non-disabled people. This was a worldwide movement, but in the United States, the independent living movement was born in the 60s when the people that were living with severe disabilities were being deinstitutionalized for the first time in history, and it soon gave them opportunities to live free and independent lives. Because the statewide institutions closed, soon people with severe disabilities became more visible in our communities. Due to that, the independent living movement was born. It evolved from the community's rights model, which adopts the belief that if an individual needs support to live in a community, then that support should be provided. Sadly, disabled people were still greeted by unwelcoming attitudes from their communities, and private medical industry quickly took over the responsibilities that the state-run institutions had. In the early 70s, the first Center for Independent Living was founded in Berkeley. Ed Roberts, who was one of the first severely disabled persons to attend the University of California, Berkeley, was one of its founders. Ed, who was a post-polio quadriplegic, was living in a hospital that they turned into a dorm for him while he attended UC Berkeley. He was required to be back in his room by 10 p.m. and was denied the basic rights to make decisions that non-disabled students took for granted. So Ed and the other disabled students attending Berkeley started the first Center for Independent Living. The center focused on assisting people with disabilities to live in a community with whatever supports they needed. The Center for Independent Living started a national movement and eventually led to creating a lot of the disabled rights that we have today. Today, there are over 400 centers for independent living across the United States. The belief that all people with disabilities share a common thread brings them together. The centers are private nonprofit organizations that are run by disabled people. Because of the Center for Independent Living and the independent living movement, disabled people are more mainstream in society, and more disabled people are moving back into their communities based on their choice and not a decision made by the medical system.